As we saw in part one, India has embarked on what is probably the biggest single engineering project in the world, building 15,000 kilometers of new superhighways and motorways spanning the country at a cost of $30 billion.
It's very difficult to build roads in India because property rights are so complicated. It can take a long time in the courts to acquire the property to widen roads, or to buy the farmland, reallocate farmland to road building purposes. So it is a very, very slow, long process.
But at the end of that process, if the government wins, they have the right to make a compulsory purchase. Rajesh Devi was given $6,500 for her land, but says that without the ability to farm, it's the only livelihood she knows, her family face starvation.
दिक्कत औरतों को भी है और बच्चे को भी है, सब कोई दिक्कत है। जब जमीन ले ले तो क्या खाएंगे फिर, बच्चे भी और औरत भी, ये बताओ। और मुआवजा कुछ दिया ना है तो क्या खाएंगे फिर?
या तो हमें इतना मुआवजा मिले कि यहाँ से हम अपनी जमीन दे के कहीं भी जाएं अदर, तो वहाँ पे हमारी 2 गुनी या 3 गुनी जमीन बने, ठीक है जी। और यहाँ पे रहते हैं तो यहाँ पे तो हमारे पास रहा ही कुछ नहीं, एक झोंपड़ी रहेगी ये रहने के लिए, उसमें हम क्या विकास करेंगे आप बताइए।
It's estimated that some 25% of perishable goods rot because bad roads stop the goods getting to market in time. So not all farmers oppose the new highways.
अब बहुत अच्छा विकास हो गया है, नेशनल हाईवे बन गए हैं। पहले शहर लाने के लिए मतलब बहुत परेशानी उठानी पड़ती थी, अब मतलब कोई परेशानी नहीं है, विकास बहुत अच्छे हो रहे हैं। और रेट किसानों के लिए आलू की रेट भी अच्छी मिल रही है।
But there's a problem, say critics. This is great for people in the big cities or near the big new superhighways, but 90% of Indians live in villages or towns of less than 200,000 people.
Connecting those areas to either the cities or the ports would be enormously beneficial, but I guess in developing countries, as all countries, there's a tendency to the big and the glamorous infrastructure projects that lend themselves to ministerial visits and cutting ribbons on new highways and Commonwealth Games, these big, exciting, flashy infrastructure projects, rather than making a rural roads passable in wet weather conditions. The boring, low-key, small-scale infrastructure, but nevertheless makes a big difference to the lives of ordinary people.
At the moment, it seems that the country is pouring most of its efforts and money into the national road network. Perhaps not surprising in a people with a passion for the motor car and with its own substantial automobile manufacturing base. But not something that everyone agrees is a wise long-term move.
I personally think they shouldn't invest too much in road and car. The reason for that is that we'll reach peak oil at some point. That's the point where oil demand outstrips oil supply. And the Smith School has just recently published a study on this. And if you're in such a scenario, it will be troublesome to get enough oil for all the cars around. So I definitely think if infrastructure investment, then it should be low carbon, oil independent infrastructure investments.
India already has the biggest railway network under a single management in the world, transporting over 7 billion passengers and 350 million tons of freight a year. And it's green, or greener than roads, say its supporters. Once it's been built, that is.
It is much cheaper in terms of utilization of fossil fuel. And fossil fuel is something which is very scarce in this world. And any transport system which uses less fossil fuel has to be utilized by everybody. And that is the reason why America and Africa and China, everybody is going in for making more and more railway systems, because the railway uses 1/6 of the petroleum requirement compared to roads. So you can carry 6 times more traffic with the same petroleum product.
The problem with the rail network is the desperate need for upgrading. Much of it is still the legacy of the British Empire. Construction started in the mid-1800s and rail was nationalised in the 1950s. This points control equipment was installed in 1932. and although still functioning, has seen better days. And depending on where you are in the country, the quality of the travel experience can vary.
When I go to South Indians, I feel very good because the facilities which they are giving, that is excellent. But regarding North Indian, it's not good, and especially in cleanliness.
It faces the problem of funding. You know, a government has to decide because government has many priorities, and transport is not the highest priority. You know, education, health, and the power, they actually are higher in the government priority than transport system. And in road system, they only have to make a road, and the trucks and everything else is brought by somebody else. In railways, you not only make railway line, you have to provide for locomotives, coaches, wagons, everything. So it is actually, what I should say, a very intensive utilization of capital.
There has been investment on new high-speed trains, but there aren't yet many of them.
They need to infrastructure, they need to make more trains like these, and also they need to increase the seating capacity because the tickets are not available, readily available. You need to book them in advance.
There are ambitious plans to extend the rail network and build dedicated freight corridors connecting Delhi and Mumbai and the east, but they lie in limbo as the political will seems to be lagging. As a result, the railways are now spending over 110 rupees for every 100 they earn. Adding to their woes, with deregulation and a recent explosion of low-cost airlines, big money is being attracted elsewhere. The New Delhi airport, the world's 6th largest, is an example of an infrastructure project completed on time and within budget. Not least, say many, because it's a private-public partnership. Terminal 3 opened in 2010. It will handle 34 million passengers a year. It cost $3 billion to build.
Group of people who've started traveling by air, who were traveling earlier by railroad. So the airlines have tapped into that sort of market.
It's much better than before.
I think this is the best that they could do.
It is a splendid airport.
All the facilities are very nice.
Hospitality is very nice.
And good opportunities here.
It's definitely much better than the older one.
Frankly, India is still extremely challenged as a nation, especially infrastructure. But I think let's begin. I think it's very important that we start somewhere. It takes a long time to build this infrastructure.
The government is gambling that public-private partnerships like airports and the new transnational superhighways will enable India to catch up with their economic rival, China. The challenge is going to be making sure that in this vast country of over 1 billion people, the benefits of economic success are shared out across the land.
In the long run, in order to sustain growth, one needs an independent judiciary, one needs protection of private property rights, one needs a vibrant civil society, and India already has those things. You know, very difficult to create, but however creakily functioning they are, India has them. But China has the daunting task of trying to create those institutions, removing the legal system, property rights from its communist legacy, the Communist Party. And so even if China has raced ahead in the last 30 years, many would argue, would agree, in the next 50 years, perhaps India is going to overtake China.
More and more people are beginning to believe that the world's biggest democracy may, after all, be playing a successful long game. In the next episode of Develop or Die, we'll be looking at one of the greatest challenges confronting society in the 21st century: population. By 2050, the world's scarce resources will have to support over 9 billion people. We'll be traveling to the most populous nation on earth, China, to see firsthand how this country is addressing and confronting the challenges of growth.